Okay. This is gonna be a demonstration for doing your process documentation for texture. So we're gonna kind of do like this hold handing approach for process documentation. I've taken a look at some of your process document pieces, and I definitely feel like there's like some areas we can improve on or do better with it because it can be used as like a really effective SI piece if done properly. So, we'll kind of go with like this approach. So this is like kind of like what I did with the prelim sketch you looked at from the warm up before. So this is like what I did here. So, again, this is like a student example from last year, but I thought this was a perfect example of, doing like textures for like trees that, they could, technically something you could focus on to bring in more detail in your artwork. So obviously what I did over here is like kind of like a little overboard, but I wanted to show like, just an example, like something that could be like really nice and you could use it as an aside piece. So, we kind of start off with the sketch though, the warm up or what you should have done last class was kind of like pick out things that you wanted to focus on a little bit more texture. Yeah, we kind of pointed out like the grasses or the leaves on I meant not grass, but I meant to say like the leaves on the trees was like good focus on. Same with like the branches in this picture here. So we just want to focus on just the textures of the trees, and I found like this really nice picture online of like a tree that I wanted to focus on. I mentioned some light source shadows and dark shadows that are like under the tree. So these are like kind of like the little things that you want to just make notes of and look for when you do your process documentation piece. And again, it'll vary like depending on like what you're trying to focus on or work on or practice a little bit more. In this case, I wanted to focus on texture. And one of the most important things with texture is your incorporation of value. So I'm just gonna do like another layer on top of this. But definitely with like value though, you want to focus on like areas that are your highlights in the picture, your shadows, and then your darker, and then your dark areas, which is like under the tree right here. So it's kind of like the same idea as like, when we did like your sphere drawings, you're just kind of doing the shadows here, highlights up here. Same idea, but we're doing it like a tree form. So, and again, it'll vary depending on like what your, what you want to focus on with your prelim piece. But yeah, I'm just showing you one example here. So moving on to this part right here, this will probably be like what the demonstration will kind of be focused on is, just how to do like a little bit of digital painting and rendering. So, I'm kind of like labeling all these different brushes I'm using for like the old brush right here, leading to like this brown right here. That's the brush that I use for like the brown parts of the trio down here. And then for like the details, I use like this different twig brush on here. So when you go on to, Procreate, like you have like a lot of really nice brushes. I think you can kind of get by with any piece that you want. So I kind of just use like these organic brushes. Twigs right here. One of the brushes, the old brush right here. And then you'll see like I use like other brushes up here where it's like this cotton brush. And cotton brush is again, most of these are organic, so it's not really like a brush for like the bushes, but this kind of remind me like of a bush or like the texture of the tree. And then we have like some detailed brushes where it's using the snow gum brush. They kind of remind me of like leaves. So you know, I feel like the best approach for like like at least like a tree. And again, it really like depend on like what you're doing. I kind of use like kind of like a more of like a blurry brush. Like blurry is great for like blocking in shapes, and then the detail brush is just for like nice for final touches. So I kind of just labeled everything in terms of brushes that I use, how the brushes actually look when you use them, and you basically want to like the whole concept of describing the process to a blind person. That's kind of like essentially what you want to do with your process documentation piece. And then I did like a little extra thing to make it look nice. This is like after I was done everything, just because I got more comfortable with the brushes. I understood the process a little bit better. Um, then you can do like little fine touches to make it look nice. All right, so let me just start with a blank document, but this is gonna be kind of like what I want you to try to focus on a little bit more. Try to accomplish with your SI piece, especially for like texture. Uh, okay, so just want to kind of go over like digital painting a little bit, and then I'm just gonna pull up that tree as a reference. So, part of the demo for today is I just want to go over like a little bit with digital painting because that could be like a really nice effective tool to use for texture. So let me just add the reference on here. And I'm just gonna just redraw that tree again just to show you. So we'll just use that as a reference here. And again, you probably want to put it like directly in the document, when you do the process piece, kind of like how I showed you before. So, pretty simple though, and I'll probably move a little bit quicker. It won't have to be as clean as the other drawing that I did, but pretty much you want to kind of like scroll through your brushes. And you want to find like a good brush to kind of block in space. So like in this case, I use this cotton brush here. So use the cotton brush. Kind of found like a green in the middle. So I'm just gonna use like this green here just to show you. So this is like kind of like a very kind of like a fuzzy brush. It's almost like reminiscent of like cotton itself. So obviously I'm not gonna be able to capture every single detail on this brush. So I definitely will have to use a different brush for like this part. But and then you're just gonna be just kind of like blocking in the shape. So general shape of the tree is kind of like this shape here is almost like a big kind of like what they call like broccoli trees where it's like the Brussels sprout on the top. And then you have like more of your shadows on the bottom. So I noticed that with this brush I had to like go in different layers to get like that dark green that I want. So I'm gonna go over it a few times. So we kind of block in that huge area right there. And we didn't really go over like color theory too much, but you kind of want to avoid going like into a direct black with the shadows. It is a little bit better if you go with like a darker blue. Because if you follow like color theory, like if you want to go into a darker shade of green, it's gonna like lean more toward the blue. So I think like blue will look a little bit more better than actual black. But I'm just kind of like just blocking in these big shapes right here. So we have like this nice shadow under the tree right here. And then there's also some highlights on the top part. So, if you're gonna go to green, then you're gonna go up a little bit more to yellow. But I'm not gonna go like pure yellow, but maybe like a light green yellow. So that's just kind of like blocking in some areas here. Just to get an idea of like how I want this, tree to look. And obviously it's gonna like kind of vary a little bit, but this is like the general idea though, because your lights up here and then shadows on the bottom. So it's almost like a sphere drawing that we're doing, but we're just getting like just blocking in the general shape. And then you can create a layer behind it. So just remember, you can always use layers in your drawings. And I'm just gonna just block in the brown branch of the tree. So in this case, with the tree, I used the painting old brush. And again, I'm just kind of going straight into it. So it might take you some time to find the exact brushes you want to use for this assignment. So just like I mentioned before, this brush is kind of like very blurry. But, again, it's really great to just kind of use to just block in those shapes that we need, So I actually want to go into like a darker part of the tree. So, and I'll go into a little bit of blue later to just give it a little bit more color. So just remember though, like when you use the brush, you can also use the eraser too with the same brush. So this is kind of like one of the things you have to do with painting is you have to like refine your edges. So I'm using like the same brushes, but I'm kind of just refining the edges a little bit more. So, you know, it's kind of like going like a back and forth of using your paints and then refine the edges. So in this case, I'm just refining with the eraser just to kind of clean it up, trying to match it to the drawing. All right. So now let's go up to, you know, back to the layer with my tree here. So again, I would just want to refine the edges a little bit more. So I'm going to go back to the organic brush. I'm going to go with like a smaller brush because, you know, I want to try to get a little bit more of like that shape and form that's happening in the tree here. So, you know, just going to erase parts of the tree, get a little bit more of that shape and form. So I'm going to go small with the eraser because I want to go into a little bit more details with finding the shapes. So it might not look perfect at first, but you know, you just have to keep working at it, and then you'll get more of that shape that you want. So like this right here, it's like a big area. And then eventually, as you work on it more and more, I'm gonna go with like a smaller brush just to get some of those inside areas too. So. You know, you have to just keep kind of going back and forth. I'm gonna use the eyedropper, go back with the blue. So use that same brush and, you know, just kind of work and render it pretty much. So organic, con. So let me make that a little bit smaller, draw it in. Okay. So it's getting there. This is gonna take some time. So we don't want to make it look like kind of like a Brussels sprout tree. So you know, you want to think about like small sections of the you know, bushes. You know, kind of like you can render like smaller sections of it. So I don't know if I can draw my reference. Can't really draw on it. But you know, let me go back to the actually let me put my reference on here. That way you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just gonna turn the reference off. We'll just insert the actual picture in here. And you'll probably want to do that with your piece. So it's like smaller over here. So, you know, we can kind of separate the bushes into different parts. So you want to look at those little details, but you don't want to do the details right away because you want to try to get like established the main pages. So, you know, like this could be like one area. Pick a color y'all can see. That could be one spot. 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 That could be one spot there. That could be there. So those areas that I highlighted, and literally drew on top of my picture. So not the best practice, but let me undo that. So maybe I'm gonna do it one more time, get rid of that other one. So I'm gonna pick this spot here, there, and it'll make more sense when I'm, you know, why I'm doing this. Maybe this spot here. You know, we're just gonna pick out some areas we can, you know, try and create a little bit more shape and form in. So I'm gonna go with this darker shadow, and go back to organic. You know, and then you gotta go smaller with your brush. And go with like a dark blue. More smaller than that. So, you know, one spot could be like right here. Go focus on a little bit more. Another spot up here, or a circle there. Can go a little bit darker on some of these areas here. And then this spot right here, I can go here. So I'm just like, you know, kind of picking out areas I can just go into a little bit more detail in. Like for a tree like this, it's really, really hard to try to get every single detail, but you have to just kind of inference or, you know, imply the details in the tree. So there needs to be a little bit of shadow over here. Okay, this is pretty good though. And then you would just, you know, kind of eyedrop your colors. So we've already got like, pretty good colors here. I'm just going to just add a little bit of green here, try and match it with the picture. So this is like where you start drawing from like observation. Just going a little bit more to I'm a little bit green over here just to, just so it's not like a really big blocky shadow. And I'm just gonna go a little bit lighter with the values. You kind of get the idea. So, and then highlights. So with the highlights, I'm actually going to use like a different brush for that. Just kind of line that up a little bit. I do want to do one more shadow on this side right here. Okay, so that's pretty good. So, it's getting there. You just have to keep rendering it. And, then I'm going to start going into my other brush. So snow gum brush. So, this is like where I would probably use like the lightest highlight just to bring it out more. So, usually with like your highlights or areas that are the lightest, that's probably the best times to use those more detailed brushes because it'll definitely make some of those areas really pop out a lot more. And then you can vary the size of your brush. So you can do like some big ones, some small ones. And you can do like the same thing like before. You can, use the same brush for the edges. And then that'll really kind of get rid of the whole, you know what? Did this all in different layers. So let me just move this down here, merge the layers. I always like merging the layers as I'm working because, it'll just make things easier when I'm ready to erase, clean up things. This is like really good for like the edges. And you can vary the brushes too. Oops. Just trying to eye drop the colors. You kind of get the idea. I'm just gonna keep rendering more, add some little details. I'm just kind of like just painting some areas here. It's slowly getting there. You kind of get the idea. Eventually, the more you work on it, it'll, look like, like what I did here, when I rendered it more. Yeah, spend a little bit more time, the details, kind of establish more of the shapes, with more detail with the branch down here. Okay, and I also did like, this little area here, it's just like, let me mess as well in the little bush spots. Because I was like wondering like, how am I gonna like render this? So I'm just kind of like focusing on like one area here. I did it like over here on the side. So don't be afraid if there's like a little detail you want to focus on, because those little things, and I might actually put it in my annotations. I'll just do an arrow like right here. I kind of focused in on like one of the branch areas. Detail practice. All right. Okay, but might not be able to get this done in a class period, but at least you're able to get started with it and work on it.